Hello, everyone. Saffron is in the house. She's with us today, so this is good news. And I am with Ray Rodriguez, and he is a gift to my life and to so many lives. And it's such a blessing to be with you today, Ray. And thank you for being in the talk with me. And we're going to talk about wisdom and love and gender equity with Saffron.
Yes. She knows all about love.
She knows all about love. That's a very real thing. Um, and so it's a gift to have someone with your visionary gifts and talents and your healing gifts, and as a kindred poet. It's always a gift to have a kindred poet here in our conversation. And also as a practitioner and a healer and a wisdom keeper for your people and for your nation. So thank you so much for being with us. And you're also med tech. I mean, you're like you have like all these different hats that you wear. But I think that's how it is with healers. So, healers and visionaries. And so thank you for being here with me today. And so, there's a question that I always ask. It's the first question that I ask, and it's the question of, what does real medicine mean to you? And
I would love to also start by just saying it's such an honor to be here with you and with everyone. So thank you for allowing me into this space and into your home and into your life. In so many ways, I've learned so much from you. So it's been an honor and a deep, deep joy and pleasure. I'm in this point in my journey where I really am into deconstructing things quite a bit. So when I'm thinking real medicine, I think about what's real. And for me, when I think about what's real, it's what is resonating with me, what I'm willing to put my energy and my thought and my consideration into. And that also can equate to value, what we place our value into. And for me, what I find valuable, what I find real, are connections with people, connections with my surroundings, connections with beings of all forms, seen and unseen and unrecognized, and just being in a part of the mystery of life. And so that's what's real for me.
Wow. So real and medicine are interchangeable for you.
Very much so.
I love that.
And when I'm thinking medicine, the thing about medicine is that sometimes it's not easy to take. It's not it's not always an enjoyable experience. And so what I think is really beautiful is when people, even when we have these moments, because we all have them, right? Those whispers of diminishment, those times when we are not giving ourselves the highest regard, and when we're feeling a little defeated, and those are the medicine that we are given. It's that energy that we can use to transform into what is healing and what will allow us to grow even deeper into who we are. And one of the interesting thoughts that has come through for me in thinking about what is real medicine since you've started these conversations is those situations in which people experience trauma, and they're able to use those really terrible, unfortunate circumstances, and they use that energy to transform themselves, and then to be able to offer that to others to heal through their transformation process. So for me, that's when I think of real medicine, I think of the combination and culmination of that which we put our energy into and allow to transform us into better people.
Wow. It reminds me of there's one of the muses, one of the 9 muses, and that's what she does. She's a muse of tragedy. And what she does is she takes tragedies and she turns them into medicine, or she will take a tragedy and turn it into art or something creative, she will make something good of what has taken place. And so you're reminding me of her as we're talking here today. I had a poem I wanted to begin with, and as a fellow poet, I thought you might appreciate that. This is the poet Lianel Lianlaf, and this is from this book, The Four four Mapuche poets, and this is a book that I really love. It was a gift from someone I cherish, from CJ. um, so this is called The River of the Sky, The River of the Sky. The great river of the sky has fallen asleep halfway along the road, and in its waters the souls of my ancestors are cooling off. The earth bathes in the sky river, in the clear waters, high waters, on a starry night, a moonlit night, or a night when it's cold. The river sleeps on. It is resting, waiting for the waters of our souls. The great river of the sky sleeps and waits for me. The great river of the sky sleeps and waits for me. And so I was appreciating this and with the river and with all of the work that we're doing around the waters. And my friend Araceli talks about, there's an eagle flying by right now. I want to acknowledge the power of that in our conversation.
Yes.
Like, hello, eagle. Thank you very much. And is going to now dive into the sea, perhaps, and
About
wow.
it.
Yeah, I was hovering there for a minute. It's like, what's going to happen? About
So
to catch
beautiful.
something, right? About to catch something. And so the great river of the sky sleeps and waits for me. And I love that last line, but waiting for the waters of our souls. And so waiting for what is it that will water our souls? And when I talked with you about this, I was like, hey, what do you think about wisdom? You know, like how can we talk about wisdom and love and gender equity? And so I wanted to ask you about, how do you access wisdom, or what knowledge and experience would you like to share with people, or what has unfolded for you around gender equity and around love? I mean, I know it's the biggest question in the entire universe, but it's such a good question.
Many.
It's such so however you want to, whatever river you want to follow.
Yeah. So what I think is really beautiful about these times is that so much has transpired and transformed socially to allow for more inclusivity with gender and gender expression. And I think that for me, wisdom, so deconstructing again, when I'm thinking
wisdom, love, gender equity, woo!
Yes, such a
knowledge,
beautiful
experience.
topic. So for me, like the difference between knowledge and wisdom is wisdom holds that lived experience. That's why elders are so full of wisdom and have so much to bring. And I think that for me, how I access wisdom is really being able to step back, step out of the way, and just listen and just hear, because I feel like there is so much knowledge out there that's very useful and can help to bring about a better understanding of how we function in this world, how the society works, and all of that. And also, when we step back and allow to just hear what experiences are trying to tell us and are trying to say, that's where some true medicine lies. And for me, in this really interesting last 7 years of my life, so much has changed that I've noticed around gender inclusivity. So I know for my own story, just to share a little bit about it, I had no idea that I was someone who was gender nonconforming. I had absolutely no idea that that was something that you could even question about. And so it didn't even occur to me to think about in my life until someone outwardly asked me directly, oh, have you ever thought about what's your gender identity? And that's all it took for me to have just these openings in understanding of, wow, I've never really questioned it. I don't really know.
You're like, thank you for empowering me with your question. Yeah.
Totally.
How did that feel? I mean, did it feel like How was that moment for you?
It was uh, like riding a roller coaster, where it's that really exciting terror that you feel. And it's like your body is like, what's happening? Where are we gonna go down? Like, is this,
This
you
is
know?
how bad is it? How good is it? How is it good? Is it
Yeah,
what is it? Like,
totally. And
oh,
at that
not
time,
just it
even
just is, not just it just is. Wow.
and at that time, even it was still pretty far accepted, but not so much as it is today. Like
Mm.
7 years ago, I hid it from myself for 4 years because it was such a
Mm.
terrifying thing. And it's not that I didn't have a very loving family. They're incredibly supportive. It just wasn't in their wheelhouse and it wasn't in mine. And so that's, I think, also where love comes in. Um, I actually just this week, 2 years ago, had one of my gender affirmation surgeries that was totally life changing for me. So I thought it was an interesting comparison that you asked me to do the talk with you this week. Because
Interesting.
it's an
Yeah.
anniversary of that. And when I was reflecting on that, I was really, that was the biggest gift to myself, is being able
Mm.
to love myself regardless of what boxes I wanted to even fit myself into.
Yeah, the boxes. It's filling out of the boxes. Happy
Thank
anniversary,
you.
Ray. I'm so happy for you. Yeah, that's marvelous. Big medicine, good medicine. And so, when we're talking about the arms of love and give the giving and the receiving of the arms of love, and I know that, we've talked about like David Richo and how David Richo is, he has like acceptance and attention and affection and allowance. And, those are the arms of love that he works with. But then um, there's also the arms of love, and the arms of love are gratitude, appreciation, acceptance, validation, you know, and so how have you accessed that medicine for yourself, and how have you accessed that medicine for your community in this time, and then how is it that you would like to extend those arms of love now, knowing what you know, having been through what you've been through.
Thank you for asking that question. That's almost a daily unfolding, even. Like, how am I
Mm-hmm.
able to extend myself what I'm in need of today to feel complete and whole and totally in love with myself and all of my
Oh, that's so
imperfections?
great. Yeah. Totally in love with myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember that part. Be totally in love with yourself. Okay.
It's a great feeling when you
So good.
actually are so able to extend that to yourself. And I think
Mm.
one of the outward manifestations of that for me has been my writing and exploring deeper what I have to bring as someone who listens,
Mm.
because it is a combination of my lived experience with
Mm.
what I allow to just flow through. And
So your
so,
voice.
yeah,
I
it's,
apologize. I didn't
oh,
mean
that's okay. No,
to.
I was wondering if there was more. Um, and I think that there are even poems that I write, and it's fun to go back and sort of look at the trend of what was I writing about,
Mm.
and really understanding. Sometimes I'll write something and it'll just feel so. I don't resonate with that poem so much. And
I'm curious.
I have a few followers, and they'll really appreciate. They'll really into it, and I'll be like, I don't really feel it, but okay. And then I'll come back a couple months later and it'll just be so in alignment with
Oh,
the
wow.
information or the medicine that I need for myself later in my life. So I think that that's one of the interesting ways that I'm able to play with the mystery and just bring some of the love that I'm given from my support systems
Mm.
through.
That's so cool. I mean, just to see ourselves as a conduit for the love we're given. I love that image. Just like, oh, so the love comes to us and then flows through us and then goes out to other people. And so I like that idea of like giving your love away, or because there's an infinite supply of that love. And so how do you think people can best tap into that kind of infinite supply, or that knowledge, or that, I love what you said about, or I really appreciate what you said about the self-love piece. And, I was just, hoping everyone could have that experience, that lived experience of loving the fuck out of themselves, or just loving yourself. You don't have to add the fuck part. You're just like loving yourself a lot in all the ways, just like, oh yeah. So how can we really love ourselves and cherish and care for ourselves? And so I really expletive.
It's one of the things
Sometimes.
I appreciate about you.
Thank you. It's just like it's a thing.
It's real.
So there it is. There it is. And so I'm curious about that. Like, how do you think people could tap? How could they tap that?
So it's interesting. What's coming to mind is this. I met with this very courageous woman. She's a new friend last night, and she was telling me she's a mother, and she was telling me about how she is rewriting her own narrative in allowing
Mm,
herself to put herself first sometimes. And it's always
mm,
with that, I love my children come first, and so do I. And I thought that was a really powerful way of
mm.
rewriting that narrative for her, especially for people who are parents or who have other beings that they're tending to and taking care of. How important it is to be able to fill your own cup first. And so
Oh yeah.
I would wonder for folks. Oh, there's a.
Yeah, I would wonder for
I
folks
would wonder for
what
folks what's
packages
knocking
are
at the door
arriving.
for them. What is it that gets you excited? What is it that gets you interested in what's next? What's the mystery bringing to me?
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I'm really curious now to see like what's
yeah,
going on at the door. But we shall see. I mean, if it rings again, but until then,
the
that's
mystery awaits.
really beautiful. And the other question I have, right, is, you know, what, you were talking about the poetry, but what is it that you feel is most essential about creating? And what do you feel is most important for you personally to create at this time? And also, how can other people engage in creations that are going to benefit or bless others around love and around wisdom, but also around gender equity?
I think creation is such a beautiful way to tap into all of those things.
Mm,
Because when you're creating, it's this raw state of just allowing things to show you and for you
mm,
to have an influence on what is surrounding you. And when I think of creation, I think a lot of people tend to be very narrow in their thinking, myself included. So when I think creation, the first things that come to mind, okay, for me, it's poetry or maybe art, or maybe it has to look this certain way. But creation is making a beautiful dish. That food is a form of art.
oh
um,
yeah,
when you're
that's true.
when you're cleaning up your home, you're creating the art of your
Mm,
home.
beauty.
So it's just allowing yourself, for me, it's allowing myself that creative process to flow through in every single thing
Mm,
that I'm doing, and really paying attention to the things that I'm doing. What is it allowing me to express in this moment at this time? And what's been important for me, especially during COVID, during all of these incredibly powerful resistance movements throughout the entire
mhm,
globe,
mhm.
is just allowing myself the space to understand what it is that I'm feeling around it, because so much of it is
Oh,
unexpressible in words or in actions. So for me,
so it's better to try to tap that mystery and to allow it to flow through you. And it's kind of finding its way. It sounds like there's a mystery to it, like, right, because you're also mystic. So I know that about you, that you're also mystic in addition to being a visionary and a poet and a healer. So it's really interesting to think about, oh, how can I just be with the mystery of what's happening? And what are some things that people could do to support gender equity with wisdom and love? What are some ways that you would like to see that maybe you haven't seen, or that you have seen that are really working? Uh, I mean, creativity and voice, it sounds like, make
Those are
art,
important.
say something.
Mhm.
Both sound like really important aspects of it. Be who you are, access self love. So I'm hearing all those things. And then what are some ideas that you have for others who might want to support gender equity and with love and wisdom?
I think what's really powerful there is if people really start with where they are at.
Mm.
You know, first ask yourself the question, what gender identity do I find resonates with me? Uh, what interests me about my experience as a person of this gender? Um, I think that so recently I had a conversation with two folks also in this program that I'm in around social justice and equity in general. And they were two cisgendered women, older women, and they were sort of talking back and forth amongst themselves about, I don't really understand um, what gender differences there are. And one of them had described, well, Google's a great tool, Google's a great friend to be able to tap into understanding a bit more about what gender identities are out there. What does it mean to have a gender that's one versus another, and that can um, look so many different ways. And I remember in that conversation feeling so many things, and one of them was frustration at Google being the first place that is available to access wisdom because it's so steeped in cisgender and white
Yes.
supremacist. Yes.
Thinking, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's a great place to start, and to always question, who is this information being put out by? What is my reasoning for wanting to explore more into this gender conversation, whether it's I'm a woman and I want to understand what forms of societal oppression are being placed on me, and how does that impact me as a woman, or as a man, how am I operating in this world? How do I utilize the privileges that I have to be able to allow for others the space that they are not inherently given in this society? Um, so a lot of it really just to me starts with really asking yourself the questions that interest you and wondering why they interest you, and taking that step in, how do I begin to find out? And there are so many resources available online, so it is a fantastic way to start. And also,
But yeah, you're gonna get gender reveal part. I mean, you're not. It's not gonna be like, oh, here's all the genders. Like, you can be gender queer, you can be gender fluid, you can be gender right. There's like, so you can be non-binary. There's just this myriad of beautiful genders that we are. But it's not going to. You're right. Google is probably going to say, oh, here's your fucked up fucking gender reveal party. So it's just like, or crazy. Just if you want to not have the expletives, you can just say crazy, wild. If you don't want to say crazy, you can say wild, not acceptable. Gender reveal parties.
That's one way to find out.
Such a strange thing, right?
It is, and it's so new to us all. We're all just trying to navigate this territory together, and so it can be overwhelming, and it's equally as overwhelming for someone who is gender non-conforming as it is for someone who's really not and just trying to understand. So just remembering that we're all in it together, and there's always more information to unravel and unveil itself.
Every day. You're very compassionate and kind and warm and generous. Thank you for that. Well, it's interesting as I'm looking here. So, one of the things that we've been talking about in the mentoring and leadership program is about target and target rank and agency, and we've been doing some study around that with Leticia Nieto and Boyer's work. It's been really beautiful work and difficult work, but also when we're looking at like target status and agency, we were also looking at different ways that as targets, if we have target um, status, how do we recenter? How do we not go into the patterns of confusion? And how do we recenter? And so I just wanted to ask, do you have any like recentering practices that you would recommend for people as they're, working with their own gender identity or discovering it or right? Like, or just discovering their own wisdom. Like, I think that this is really the core of this is about how do I discover my own wisdom about who I am? Who am I? And oh, no, I get to make these discoveries that are not based on other people's opinions or ideas you know, and of course there's issues of safety and things like that, depending on where we live. But, how to trust our intuition and things, but also how do you stay in your power regardless of where you are, regardless of your environment, because you entered with the trauma, right? So, like with the wound and the healing of the wound, right? And the medicine. So, what would be medicine for someone, no matter where they are, that they could find their own center and really return to their power in those moments?
So a few things come to mind. Um, and if you don't mind, it's really just sort of nagging at me a little bit. So I'm
Yeah,
going to
carry
backtrack
on.
just a tiny bit.
Mhm.
My best friend is this incredible, amazing human being. And one of their, so they are a speech therapist. They studied communications. They have a master's in that. And one of their thesis projects was to study the impacts of testosterone on female born bodies and how it impacts voice. And one of the things that was really mind blowing to me was recognizing that there is literally no funding for any of the gender non-conforming healthcare services. So there's no data out there for
Mm,
people. So that's one of the ways that gender nonconforming individuals have to navigate the healthcare world, and that's another trauma in and of itself.
right.
Like
To not get the
the
healing.
information is not available for our healthcare workers, and so that information is not available for us most of the
Mm.
time. And so that's another thing that's coming up as if you're wanting to do something, if instead of asking the questions, if you're someone who's more, I want to put the money forward towards something to let the
Mm.
people do what they do, maybe finding some funding to contribute toward expanding our knowledge and database toward what these um, what these bodies are experiencing, because no one really understands, no one really knows. We're all sort of figuring it out together. And that being one of the traumas that people experience, whether it's your sort of understanding that you know that you are gender nonconforming and you're not sure how to tap into the resources to help your body become more in alignment with who you internally resonate as. Um, a couple things come to mind there, in that what we're doing is so incredibly important right now in this time. It's breaking down that very evolutionarily necessary binary
Mm.
of male and female. And we are entering into this new time, this new age. And I'm going to also preface that with gender nonconformity is not a new thing. It is as old as humans are completely. It just wasn't framed and discussed in the ways that it is now.
Mm.
And what we're doing in breaking down that binary and understanding that gender is a spectrum and that people fall along that spectrum in all of the ways. And we, as people who are experiencing living that somewhere on the spectrum, are allowing for the rest of society to enter into these questions of
Mm.
what does it mean to be masculine? What does it mean to be feminine? Um, One of the terms queer fuckery comes out when it's
Mm.
like someone who is born one sex identifies as this gender but then dresses more like the sex, it's like it's this constant folding and unfolding
Right.
and becoming and understanding. And so just
It's an
remembering how,
amazing term.
yeah, right, don't you love
I
that?
love it.
And that's just so powerful. That's the medicine that we need in this country,
Mm.
especially when we're so politically divided, when things are becoming
Mm.
so black and white. There's never just a black and white, it's always the in between.
Mm.
And we are the embodiment of that in our physical bodies, in our mental bodies, in our emotional bodies. We are living those experiences in a way that can allow others to
Mm.
really apply that to their own understanding of what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a man, and questioning why we have these constructs.
Yeah.
Are they serving us anymore when we don't necessarily need them
Mm.
to, in a place, in a world that's overpopulated as it is? Maybe it's a blessing.
Right.
you
Right.
know
Yeah.
um, so just
Powerful.
remembering how powerful that is, and that you were chosen and you chose, my belief is, come into this world in this way because you have
Mm.
work to do, because you're here to help people push the
Mm.
boundaries. And that just, I find that to be very empowering for myself in the times when it's difficult to remember there's a reason.
Beautiful. There's a reason. Oh, that's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. So to remember who we are. And I appreciate the non-binary and I always see in my courses when I'm calling things in, I call in the tree of life and the roots go into the mother or Unchimaka or Mother Earth or Madre Tierra, and then the branches go up to, Cielo or Tonkashil or Father Sky, and then with the trunk, that's that center place, that strong place, but it's also the ever expanding universe of the non-binary and the integrative nature. And the non-binary is really the integrative nature, and it's the scribe, it's the one who remembers, it's the ever expanding universe, right? And so in calling on that tree of life, the non-binary is the trunk and that place of flexibility and strength. And of course, we want for what we want is we want for those branches to grow strong and true, but that's not going to happen without this centering, this power place. And so I deeply thank you. Would you have a little project for people to do maybe this week while they're, yeah, I wanted to say also that intentions, I think that there's a lot to do with intentions. And right now, this is really a time of intention as we're going into the summer, beginning of the summer. And so there's something about intention. So I'd be curious about the setting of intentions, and we can all set our intentions about how to love, as you were saying, how to love ourselves, that how to love ourselves, how to care for one another, and then how to care for our communities. uh, so my curiosity would be, in this time of the beginning of the summer, what kind of homework would you give in addition to perhaps that intention setting?
I love that intention setting. uh, a practice um, that has served me well is really, when we are facing a situation where it just doesn't sit right with our bodies. Um, if you're feeling unheard or unseen
Mm.
or unfelt, allowing yourself the opportunity to, instead of just compressing or shushing away or um, ignoring that reality for you, really tapping into, what is this feeling? where is it in my body that I am feeling it?
Mm.
And I would wonder what it would mean if you would just allow yourself the opportunity, even if you're not able to right in that moment, just, putting a box around it, just remembering that that was a feeling that you had and that you are able to come back to it and maybe unpack it and going
Oh.
into that feeling and really allowing yourself to sit with it and just asking, what is up for me?
Hmm.
What is the question that's begging to be asked? What are the tools that are being presented that I can maybe harness for myself to grow and to nourish and nurture myself more?
Hmm.
Because we all experience those little triggers. I think we call them now, and so just really understanding where those come from, how we can work with them, is a really powerful thing. And also, uh, I learned this from you too. I've done it all my life, but especially with learning
Hmm.
through your teachings, is allowing yourself to go outside and connecting
Take a
with
walk.
that tree, connecting with
Oh,
that
yeah.
tree, connecting with the flower, connecting with the beings that surround you. I wonder
Hmm.
what your environment looks like and what you are enjoying about your environment and how you can allow parts of that environment into your internal home, into your body a little more and encompassing what it is that they are offering to you because you tend to recognize
Hmm.
the medicine that you are also able to bring. Right? If you see it, you got it, kind of a
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah. Hmm. That's
So I think those
beautiful.
would be some good things that people might be interested to try out. It's an invitation in case you would like to.
Beautiful. I'm so excited. Ray, thank you so much. I'm so happy. And I wanted to close with the universal laws of success because you seem to have that success. So I wanted to
Yeah.
close with those. And these are as researched by Angela Sarian, my mentor. And I wanted to share them as part of our closing practice to recognize. She discovered that in 85% of all cultures, they believe that success is based on these things. Success, they know that people are successful if they do these universal laws of success. People who are successful do things step by step, applying a rigor that moves toward excellence. They practice a capacity for openness, flexibility, and resilience, firm yet yielding. They follow what has heart and meaning. They follow what has heart and meaning. Yeah. They pay attention to what is inspiring. They hold a high value for honesty and integrity, and they do not give up their needs in order to feel acceptance and inclusion. Use effective communication and timing, and have their words, heart, language, and body, that includes body language, all match and align. And they know how to have fun and how to play and have laughter that is connected to joy. We do a lot of that, don't
So
we?
much.
Re-energizing and loving humor that opens. And so I would like to close. I think Saffron is not laying on the poem. Sometimes she's here. Let me show you guys Saffron. She's so cute. I don't know if you can see her. I'm moving this around. I don't want to make anyone dizzy, but there she is. So she's laying on all of my stuff, right, that I'm trying to see. There you go. All right. Okay. And then this is a very short little poem called Rebirth. Would you like to read it?
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Awesome. Ooh, rebirth. My soul is confused with the earth as it brightens and flowers, flowering soul.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Ray. What a gift to have you, and what a blessing. And I hope that this is something that is good, true, and lasting, and that you can practice these things in your life and share them with the people that you love, offer them to the people that you love, and let us know how the practice goes. Let us know what you think and what you feel. And we'll see you next week. I look forward to it. Thank you, Ray.